Imagine you're out at sea, when suddenly 31 pirate boats surround your ship. No way out, no backup, just open water. That's exactly what happened to a US Navy supply vessel, and what unfolded next will leave you speechless. When I first heard about this encounter, I thought it was just another pirate story at sea, but then, I found out 31 pirate boats went head-to-head with a single US Navy supply ship. At first, it sounds almost unbelievable, right? A supply vessel isn't even a warship, yet what happened next completely flipped my expectations. Now imagine this. You're on the open sea, and suddenly, you see dozens of pirate boats closing in from all directions. 31 of them. It feels like a scene straight out of a movie, but this was real. And the ship they targeted wasn't just any random cargo, was part of the US Navy's lifeline at sea. The pirates must have thought they had an easy win. After all, a supply ship isn't armed like a destroyer. But what they didn't realize is that every US Navy vessel, no matter its primary role, is never left unprepared. That's the first mistake these pirates made, and it would cost them dearly. Let's be honest, here pirates usually rely on numbers and intimidation. If you see 31 fast boats swarming, most would panic. But the Navy doesn't operate like that. They train for the unexpected, and even a supply ship has protocols that can make all the difference when danger strikes. From what I gathered, the pirates underestimated discipline. They thought chaos and sheer numbers could overpower structure. But in reality, when you're facing the Navy, organization always beats desperation. It's almost like they walked straight into a trap of their own making. Picture the moment. The pirates coming closer, firing warning shots, and trying to encircle the ship. But instead of fear, the Navy crew stayed calm, sticking to procedures they've drilled countless times. This calmness alone flipped the balance of power before the first major move even happened. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd expect a supply ship to be an easy target. No heavy weapons, no massive defenses. But here's the thing, these vessels often have security detachments, and they're no joke. When the pirates approached, they were met with more resistance than they bargained for. The Navy doesn't just think about offense, they think about protection. Supply ships carry gear, fuel, and essentials, which makes them valuable but also vulnerable. That's why armed security teams are often on board, and these teams, they're highly trained, ready to respond in seconds. So what happened when the pirates tried to storm the ship? Instead of finding an easy prize, they faced a crew that was locked, loaded, and fully prepared. The pirates must have realized too late that this wasn't going to be the quick victory they imagined. Here's the crazy part. Despite being outnumbered in terms of vessels, the Navy had something the pirates lacked: coordination. The pirates were just a mob of boats, while the Navy worked as one unit. That's what gave the supply ship an edge, even under overwhelming pressure. Think about it, pirates thrive on fear. If they can scare their target into surrendering, they don't even need to fire a shot. But when the Navy crew didn't flinch, that psychological advantage was gone. Suddenly, the pirates weren't hunters anymore, they were the ones being challenged. At this point, the supply ship wasn't just defending itself, it was teaching the pirates a brutal lesson. Numbers don't mean victory without strategy. And honestly, that's something we've seen in history again and again. Discipline beats chaos. Preparation beats surprise. Reports say the pirates tried to circle the ship, hoping to overwhelm from all sides. But here's where Navy tactics shine. Instead of panicking, the crew locked onto the most immediate threats, systematically responding in a way that broke the pirates' momentum. Now, let's not forget the ocean isn't calm during such encounters. With multiple boats creating waves, noise, and confusion, it's easy to lose track of who's where. But the Navy's training and situational awareness meant they always knew exactly what was happening, second by second. And then, the turning point came. The pirates started realizing this wasn't going to be an easy payday. Some of their boats began pulling back, showing cracks in their confidence. That's the moment where the Navy's resilience really paid off. They had shifted the battle psychologically. Here's the thing. When you're out on the open water, retreat isn't always an option. The pirates had committed, but the longer the fight went on, the clearer it became they were running into a wall they couldn't climb. Every failed attempt drained their morale further. One by one, pirate boats tried to push closer, but each time they were repelled. It was almost like watching waves crash against rocks. No matter how many came forward, the Navy ship stood firm, its defenses unshaken. And trust me, that's not easy to do under pressure. By now, the pirates' original confidence was gone. They weren't swarming like predators anymore, they were scattered, unsure, second-guessing. And in battles like this, once your enemy starts doubting themselves, you've already won half the fight. What I find most fascinating is how the Navy managed to maintain composure. Even under attack from 31 boats, the crew didn't act rashly. That discipline is what separates professionals from amateurs. Pirates rely on chaos, but the Navy thrives on order. Eventually, the pirates had to face reality. Their numbers didn't matter. Their intimidation failed. They were up against a force that was not only trained, but also unshakable. And when you hit that realization in a fight, the only choices left are retreat or defeat. Imagine being a pirate in that moment. You set out expecting an easy win, dreaming of captured cargo and ransom money. But instead, you're staring at a ship that refuses to break, and every move you make only brings more frustration. That's the kind of wake-up call no one wants. The US Navy's message was loud and clear. Even the ships that look like warships can defend themselves. And honestly, I think that's what shocked the pirates the most. They picked what they thought was the weakest target to hand. It turned out to be their worst decision. You know, it almost reminds me of a chess game. The pirates thought they were playing against a pawn, but in reality, they were up against a queen. And once that mistake became clear, the board flipped against them instantly. What's even more impressive is that the Navy didn't just rely on firepower. They relied on training, timing, and strategy. That combination is what made all the difference. It shows that real power, isn't just about weapons, it's about knowing how to use them effectively. From my perspective, this encounter proves something bigger. You can't underestimate the US Navy, ever. Whether it's a destroyer, a carrier, or even a supply ship, the backbone is the same: discipline, courage, and preparation. And that's exactly why the pirates failed. And let's not forget the crew themselves. They're not just sailors, they're defenders, trained to adapt under stress. Imagine the pressure of facing 31 hostile boats, and still managing to stay focused and execute every move with precision. That's true professionalism. At some point, you have to wonder, what were the pirates thinking? Did they really believe that outnumbering a Navy ship would guarantee success? Or did they simply overestimate themselves? Either way, the result was a harsh reality check they won't soon forget. Here, something that stands out to me: the courage it takes to hold your ground when outnumbered. The Navy crew didn't back away, didn't hesitate, and didn't crumble. They trusted their training and their teammates, and that trust created an unbreakable wall. And when the tide turned, the pirates realized something. Once the Navy takes control of a situation, there's no escape. You can try to retreat, but the damage is already done. You've lost your advantage, your confidence, and ultimately, the fight itself. This battle might not have been the largest in history, but it carries a huge lesson. Numbers don't guarantee victory. Preparation, discipline, and teamwork do. And for me, the real takeaway from the day: 31 pirate boats made the mistake of attacking a US Navy supply ship. Even after hearing the details, I still find myself shaking my head. 31 boats, that's a massive number for pirates. But at the end of the day, what good are numbers if they're not backed by real skill and coordination? If anything, this event probably changed the way pirates view US Navy supply ships. No longer are they seen as easy targets. Instead, they're a reminder that danger could be waiting, even in places where you least expect it. Personally, I think this story says something about resilience in general, whether it's in war, in life, or in challenges we face every day. Sometimes standing firm against overwhelming odds is what turns the tables in your favor. And it's not just about defending supplies, it's about defending morale. For the Navy, showing that even support vessels can withstand attacks sends a powerful message to allies and enemies alike. It says, we're ready, no matter what. The pirates probably thought this battle would be over in minutes, but instead, it dragged on longer than they expected, with every passing moment tipping the balance against them. Sometimes, patience and endurance are just as powerful as raw strength. If you really think about it, the pirates had no backup plan. They relied on surprise and numbers, and when those failed, they had nothing left. Meanwhile, the Navy had layer after layer of defense ready to go. That's the difference between planning and gambling. Now, I'm not saying the pirates weren't determined, they clearly were. But determination without strategy is like sailing without a compass. You might move fast, but eventually, you'll just get lost or crash. And that's exactly what happened here. Every time I picture the scene, I can almost see the frustration on the pirates' faces. They came in confident, expecting surrender, only to find themselves caught in a fight they couldn't control. That shift in power must have been crushing. By the time the dust settled, it was obvious. The US Navy had once again proven why they're among the best in the world. Even their supply ships aren't pushovers. That's the kind of reputation that keeps enemies thinking twice. To me, this wasn't just a fight at sea. It was a story about courage, discipline, and the reality of underestimating an opponent. And honestly, it is one of those stories that reminds us why preparation is always worth it, Tevin, when you think you'll never need it. Looking back, I can't help but imagine how differently this would have played out if the pirates had chosen another target. But in going after a Navy supply ship, they didn't just pick the wrong opponent, they picked a symbol of strength that refused to bend. There's also something poetic about it. 31 boats against one ship should sound unfair, but in the end, it wasn't unfair for the Navy, it was unfair for the pirates. They stacked the odds and still couldn't win. And honestly, that's what makes this story so gripping. It's not just about firepower, it's about mindset. The Navy went into this with discipline, while the pirates went in with arrogance. Guess which one lasted longer? The ocean has always been unpredictable, but one thing is certain: underestimating the US Navy is a mistake. This incident is just one more reminder of that truth, and I doubt the pirates involved will ever forget it. For me, this story highlights the value of training. You can have all the equipment in the world, but if you don't know how to use it under pressure, it's useless. The Navy proved that preparation beats improvisation every single time. I think a lot of people assume supply ships are just background players in the Navy, but this event shows otherwise. They're vital, they're capable, and when pushed, they can stand their ground in ways most people wouldn't expect. And let's be real, the pirates probably thought no one would even hear about this. But instead, it became a story that spread far beyond the ocean. That's the irony. Their failure is now a lesson everyone else gets to learn from. To me, the real power of this story is in its message. It's not about the size of the ship or the number of boats. It's about the will to stand firm, the discipline to stay calm, and the strength to turn the impossible into victory. At the end of the day, 31 pirate boats left with nothing but regret. The Navy, on the other hand, left with its reputation even stronger. And if there's one thing, this shows at S that you should never underestimate the quiet strength behind every American ship at sea. So, when I think back on this, I see it as more than just a clash on the water. It's a reminder that courage, preparation, and unity can overcome even the toughest odds. 31 pirate boats thought they had a chance, but against the US Navy, they never stood a chance. So what do you think? 31 pirate boats against one Navy ship, did they ever really stand a chance? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more stories like this, make sure to subscribe. The sea always has more tales to tell.